Hello everybody, Robert Rambles here, and welcome to Iratus Lord of the Dead. This is the October update of the early access version of Iratus, so we still are in early access, but this is the big update that we've kind of been waiting on. I have played quite a bit of Iratus. I will put the link to my original playthrough of the first released early access build in the section below. I also started a campaign on hard mode, couple of different campaigns, but then I decided to hold off until this big content update before really continuing, because as it is in early access, they are constantly making changes to the game. So we're going to start a new game, and we are going to go on the more pain difficulty, which I've had some practice at in prior builds. We can't go any further than that in the difficulty until we have beat it on this mode here, so let's just jump right in.
Life is a disease. A millennium ago, a supreme necromancer was on the verge of conquering the world. But you know what they say about best laid plans. Inevitably, heroes shall emerge. So, I was made dead. Again. But what does death really mean for somebody who has mastered it, Boredom. An eternity to ponder my errors and how close I came to victory. I am a mortal, but when this world ends, even I will know oblivion. And so, I ask myself, will I be given another chance to rise before it happens? Another chance to fulfill my ambition? It seems that fate has smiled after all.
And if you're not familiar at all with Iratus, I'll be explaining some of the core elements of the game here as we go along. If you've played games like Darkest Dungeon, you will be familiar with some of what Iratus has to offer. Alright, so we've got our starting squad. This, as far as I could tell, is always going to be the same. We're always going to have the same guys. We have a talent point that we can spend on Iratus himself. I like to immediately grab this point here to get more parts. Increases the chance of receiving parts at the end of battle by 10%. Parts are what we are going to use as a necromancer to make our minions.
The formulae reveal their secrets.
So getting more parts early on is going to be really good for us. So we'll spend that talent right away so we can benefit from it right away. If we check out the graveyard out here, we'll see that we have some structures that need to be built. We also have a mortuary immediately, which is where we put our minions who are badly hurt to heal between combats. Some of these other buildings we will be building obviously as we go along. The one that I want to get built right away is the arena. We can put somebody in the arena and they will gain 2 experience points after every victory that we accomplish. So in order to build this, we have to sacrifice a specific kind of minion, and we have to have the materials to build it. So we're going to have to create another skeleton, and then we're going to have to sacrifice him. So we can create him by going here, selecting, and we'll fill. It's going to put in all the parts that we need. We can craft him.
Bones. Just so uninspired, you know.
And that's the first thing we're going to do, is we're going to get our arena going. As far as what minions we have here, the Dark Knight is going to be our tank. The Bride of Iratus is going to be our ranged DPS, our very heavy DPS. The Skeleton is kind of a DPS. He has some tankier abilities, but he's actually pretty fragile. The Zombie is a little bit buff and has some good damaging abilities. And we'll talk about the minions more once we are in combat. Since we did create the training station, I want to put somebody in there right away. I'm going to make a Banshee. Basically, there are two types of damage in Iratus. There is physical damage, which affects an enemy's vigor, and then there is stress damage. So, two different types of damage. The Banshee is going to specialize in dealing out that stress damage. She also has some really cool abilities that lower enemy attacks. So I kind of want to get her in here instead of having our zombie go in. We'll have our zombie sit. For my previous playthroughs, I have unlocked a couple of the classes that usually you wouldn't just start with, although you might by the time you want to tackle this difficulty. So I'm going to make a bone golem right away. And a blood phantasm, because these are units that I have found very useful. And we'll talk more about their abilities and positioning. Positioning is important. We have to have our troops in a certain position to use their abilities. Every ability will tell you what position the minion has to be in on the left to do the ability, and then what enemies he can hit with the ability is shown in red on the right side. So that kind of dictates where you want to have your minions stationed in your row. You have to be aware of where they can use what ability and what abilities you'll be relying on them for. Right away, let's go ahead and put one of these guys in the training center. I'm going to throw our bone golem in there and get him some early experience. And then we can go to our dungeon map. The kingdom had need of the vast riches buried underneath the castle, great veins of iron that promised to fuel conquest after conquest, along with ancient artifacts from a long-forgotten age. The dwarves were eager to offer their services in this project, bringing their untested mining equipment and experimental concoctions for the promise of wealth. They only needed bodies that could obey, and that the humans could provide. With dungeons filled to the brim with both criminals and rebels, there was no shortage of slaves to work these mines. Drugs were used to keep them docile as they dug ever deeper, year after year, unaware of the mortal danger that awaited them below. Alright, if we zoom out, we can see our dungeon map. We're in the mines. We have a few areas that we have to work through. You can see that two of these areas are not available yet because, again, we are still in early access as of October 1st, 2019, the day that I'm recording this. I think we're going to take this straight path here. We have a battle, a chest that contains artifacts, and then another battle. This way has an immediate quest, which could be good or bad depending on the outcome of it, and I really don't want to risk it. As far as Iratus' equipment, we have a hook. Enemies are 15% less likely to escape. I don't like that because sometimes I prefer them to run away. So I'm not going to equip that. Let's select our first squad here and let's go into our first battle. And I'll walk you through a few things step by step in case you haven't played Iratus before and haven't seen any other playthroughs. The biggest difference between Iratus, Lord of the Dead and Darkest Dungeon is that the main character, us, Iratus, the Lord of the Dead, we have mana and we have spells that we can use outside of our minions. So we're starting with some movement abilities. We can just move our minions either back or forward. Like I said, positioning is important. This is something that was added after the original release of the game. And this is our mana, and this is our rage meter. Certain abilities here are going to cost in rage, and we're going to have to build that up by hitting and getting hit. We're starting off on our skeleton, so we can see we're not in position to use this ability, but the ability that I use most with the skeleton is Smite. It's going to deal physical damage, and the best thing about it is it's going to attack twice. So we'll do this, and we'll start focusing some damage on just the front guy here. You can notice that we have health for our enemies, and then we have our stress meter, and you'll see how that comes into play. Right now we're going to focus on dealing physical damage. This is the Bride's main ability, single target chest piercer. Deals 19 to 23 damage. Critical hit will deal 200% damage. And now we are going to check out our Banshee. So she has a single target scream that will deal directly stress damage to their stress meter. Once this gets low enough, the enemy has a chance to go insane. This is going to give them a bunch of negative status effects, and the cool thing that it does also is it gives them a chance to attack their own allies, or to flee. So if we wanted to target one of these guys to make them go crazy, we could, and Scream would be the way we would do that most effectively with her. But I'm going to go with Soprano with her, because Soprano is going to deal 6 stress damage to all enemies, and all enemies are going to be debuffed. They're going to lose 4 attack for their next action. So especially...
Your frail bodies fail you.
Especially dealing with physical enemies, lowering their attack damage is going to be crucial to keeping our guys healthy and alive. With our Death Knight here in the front, or our Dark Knight, rather, we have our basic attack that's going to deal 6 to 7 physical damage. This deals additional damage equal to half of the sum of our armor and magical resistance. So we can see our resistances over here, or rather we can see our enemies' resistances here. We can see our resistance over here. We have armor and we have resistance. So it's going to deal 7 damage plus 50% of 12, so plus 6 more potentially. Let's see how that works out. And there's our 12 damage. So the conscript back here has gone into a stance, Sinister Strike. At the beginning of the next turn, he's going to deal almost 200% of his normal physical damage at a random target. Normally, you'd want to be focusing this guy. Unfortunately, we already have been focusing him. What I might be able to do is I could use Show Them Their Place with our skeleton. This interrupts stances. However, we're not going to be able to use this unless we get this guy dead, because it can only affect enemies in the first 2 rows. Let's have him wait. And let's see what else we can get done here. We might be able to knock this guy out of his stance before his turn is up. Okay, we now have enough rage that we can use Rose for a Lady. This is a physical attack that's going to hit all the enemies, and it's going to be an instant critical. The good thing about critical hits is if these guys had any additional armor bonuses, the critical hits are always going to bypass that. Let's go ahead and fire this off. It's going to take out the first guy, and it actually made this guy go insane. He has a 75% chance now to attack an ally. I'm tempted to leave him in that stance, but I don't think I will. Let's put some more hurt on him. And now we're going to move our skeleton back one.
Strength through pain.
And then we can use Show Them Their Place. This is going to take this guy out of his stance so that he's not going to do that punishing 200% damage. Oh, we missed! It would have stopped him from doing that. Alright, let's just put some hurt on him. And we'll hope that he doesn't super crit any of our guys. Okay, that's the best person he could have attacked with that. Oh, nice! Totally worth leaving him alive. Since he's insane, I'm actually tempted to leave him alive for a minute. Because 75% chance to attack this guy is pretty good. Let's do a Scream here and focus on stress and see if maybe we can drive this guy insane as well. There we go. Now they're both nuts. Now they both have a 75% chance to attack each other. But there's only going to be one of them. Well, if we could hit. Very good. I like it. I love it when they attack each other. Let's go back here. What does he have? 1 vigor left?
This never gets old.
Now, if you're able to get the stress to 0, and after you get the stress to 0, every stress attack after that has a chance to cause the enemy to have an immediate heart attack and die. But obviously, stress is not 0 yet. I found that
Mine is the
overall,
winning side.
it's easier to focus on vigor damage, especially late game. We have some items here that we can have parts, and then we have an engraved ring, which is something that Iratus himself could wear. And so that was the first battle. Obviously, even on this difficulty, extremely easy. This is our graveyard event, so anything that happens in any of our buildings we'll see there. We learned just now that our bone golem has gained a level. And let's check out the leveling. So in their ability trees, when we go to level them up, we can spend the points to the left or to the right. And we have to be looking at two things here. You get a stat bonus depending on which one you pick. So if we're going to look here at improving our maim, we could come over here for 8 accuracy, and that would change the ability slightly. So right now, the target loses 1 attack for every 10 health missing for 2 turns. This would be the target loses 1 attack for every 10... Oh, okay. This is adding damage. So if you look up at the physical damage at the top, we go from 100% to 130%. If we go over here, it actually changes the effect. The target loses 1 attack for every 8 missing vigor. So it has to lose less vigor to take that additional damage. We're going to go with accuracy and just take the more damage. Accuracy is really important. Right now, this guy especially is a unit with very low accuracy. And as you can imagine, that's just the likelihood of hitting the target. So we want the accuracy up as soon as possible.
Prove yourself worthy of my investment.
I'm actually going to throw this guy in. And so we can check him out. Now we can see that our Dark Knight is hurt pretty badly. Once they have this much health missing, they need to go into the mortuary. Something I actually like to do right away, as soon as we have the units for it and the resources for it, I like to open up the mortuary as much as possible so we have more space to put our units in. But right now we have a problem because we're kind of missing a tank. We're going to need another Dark Knight anyway, so we might as well go ahead and build another one. And for this guy to make him stand out a little bit, you can name these guys. So if you guys have any cool name/class combinations, I'd be down to rename our guys. But for now, I'm going to switch him over to the alternate skin so that, you know, some of our guys are a little bit visually different than others. And he's going to become our second tank for now. Nobody else really took any damage. Our skeleton should be good. I'm going to leave him in. We didn't gain any talents, but we did get an artifact. We got a ring. Yeah, 25% more resources. We can leave that on for now. That's going to help us build in the graveyard more quickly. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm just going to wait. I really want to open up the second mortuary spot before we spend our resources on anything else. Alright, now once you go in a direction, you can't backtrack. So it's kind of important to look ahead a little bit and see where you would like to go. I think I'm going to go here. Once we get to the Fountain of Restoration, we'll either be able to restore everyone's vigor, or if we spent a lot of mana on Iratus, which we won't have yet, we could restore all of his mana. We have a chest first, which could contain just a random artifact, which at this point is good. Let's see, we have War Drums. All minions receive a +3 initiative for the first 2 turns of combat. That could be huge because it means more often all of our guys are going to get to move and take action before the enemies. We have Glass Dagger. All minions gain 10% accuracy and 10% damage until the battle ends. Oh, this effect is removed whenever a minion takes damage. Or Lancet. Enemies are 10% more likely to drop parts. That's tough. I like the initiative.
More for me.
I usually take a spell that casts to increase our initiative, so if we can have an item instead and I can buy a different spell.
Now I will make mortals tremble before me. Well,
Iratus is chatty.
Previously.
Iratus is chatty, but it's funny. I like it. You can see the preview there. It will give you a preview of the enemies you are going to face. And if we dig a little bit more into their stats here, we can kind of look at who are the more dangerous of the enemies. Right now the miners have the highest potential attack, but the conscript has the highest accuracy. The hunky back here just isn't really that much of a threat. So we're going to try to focus on these guys. They have armor. And this is the good thing about the skeleton, is it has smite, which is going to attack twice. So assuming we hit, which we might not, we could break the armor and deal damage. So while the armor's up, no physical damage is going to penetrate. But let's see if we can break it. There's the break and the 10 damage. Okay, that opens him up to get some more damage done. I could use Think of Him. This is a buff for our bride. If I do this, she's going to gain 4 attack, physical, and 4 attack to stress until the end of the battle. We're not facing many hard enemies. I would probably use this if we were up against an elite or something new or difficult, but I'm just going to lay some more damage down on this front guy here. See if we could take one of them out as soon as possible. From this position 2, we could use Destroy. This is an ability it would deal more damage if we were missing damage. But we're not missing vigor, so it's just going to deal 17 to 18 if it hits. Rupture, if we were up front, it would deal more damage to the enemy because he's lost more than 10 vigor, but for now we'll do Destroy. That's a big whiff. Ouch. He's pretty hunky though, and he can actually heal himself. The bone golem can. So we might be having him heal himself. We're definitely going to have him heal himself. Let's keep putting damage on this guy. Now that we have enough rage for it, I'm going to go ahead and use Rose for a Lady. It's going to bypass his armor and just deal straight damage because it's going to be an automatic crit on everybody.
So, this is what 1,000 years of evolution looks like? Pathetic.
Now, like I said, I could heal with the Bone Golem, the Nefarious Engine. The Golem recovers 15% vigor. If you look at the yellow skulls and the arrow +2, it's going to move him to the right 2 spaces, which is going to be perfect. Let's get him up front, and we'll get him a heal. Let's just keep swinging away with Heartless Slash. But let's go on this guy, and we will get to the skeleton, and the skeleton will be able to eat through his armor more effectively than our Dark Knight. Well, he missed anyway, so. Well, our skeleton might be busy. Unless we can take that guy out. No, he's really far back there now. I don't know if we're going to be able to do much about that. In the meantime, we've taken quite a bit of damage on our Dark Knight. So now's the question of what to do. Let's get his armor down. We have to get his armor down. Now, we have a lot of rage again. We're going to use Abyssal Hunger. All enemies lose 12 vigor. The Dark Knight recovers vigor in the same amount as the damage received by the enemies. So this is our heal for our tank, basically. Gets him pretty damn near back to full, so it's a good move. Anytime he's low and you have the rage for it. Well, the stance is over. Let's keep putting more damage into the front guy here. Get him out of the way. The Bone Golem has some other abilities that are useful. He could put a +2 block shield on somebody. So that would negate physical damage twice unless it were a crit on a character. That could be very useful for people like our bride who are a bit squishier. He's got self-destruct, which literally I'm not going to use. I'm not going to self-destruct. And then we have Splintering March. Deal 100% physical damage. Has a 25% chance to stun, so he would rush through these guys. I'm tempted to show it, but he's a little low on health, so I think I'm just going to heal and save the rage. My goal is always to keep my guys alive.
Become part of the breathless tide.
And I like to develop like 2 solid squads of high-level characters with some additionals for support, for building buildings and staffing buildings and things like that. It's not really worth it, but I'm tempted to heal him up again so he can be at full health for next time. But our other Dark Knight will be out of the mortuary by then, so let's hold on to the rage and just swing away here. Crit and a debuff. Stunned, we're going to skip our next turn on him, and that's unfortunate. Let's go with Rupture. So this is where we'd be dealing +1 attack for every 10 vigor the enemy is missing. I think I'm going to throw this on this guy, just because it might be over damage if I put it on the front guy. Nice! Yeah, that would have been way over damage. That was a good hit. And let's finish him off with Rose for a Lady. Oh, I spoke too soon. This guy's got 1 health left. Well, our skeleton should be able to take care of that with one of these swings. There we go.
A predictable outcome.
We have a level 3 brain, and I'll explain these in a second here. First, we got a couple of level ups. So our skeleton leveled up. Let's check him out. Again, I'm tempted to go for accuracy. Right now, this is going to change this ability just so that it doesn't miss. And really nothing he does is going to miss now because his accuracy is now 102%. So that's perfect. Early on, those double swings, we really want him to hit. And for our bride, her aim is by default 115. So I'm not going to take accuracy. I am going to look at some of these abilities that have plus attack. So this changes her Flames of Love ability, which is a magic attack. That would deal 17 damage and set them on fire for 2 turns. This is going to increase the amount they burn by, and it's going to give her the additional 3 attack power. So we're going to take this one, even though we haven't used that magical ability yet. Now we have a brain. The cool thing about a brain is a brain can automatically level up a character. If I wanted to turn this Blood Phantasm from a level 1 to a level 3, I could use this brain on him and he would be a level 3 Blood Phantasm. It's a good way to, later in the game, make up for it when you lose a minion. So if all of our guys were around level 3 and our Dark Knight went down, I could build another Dark Knight and instantly get him back to level 3 using that brain. So the brains I tend to hold on to, and we'll know when it's time for us to use them. That's basically how I look at it. Stupidly, I didn't have anybody training. That time I could have had somebody at level 2, but nobody was in there. Or they could have at least gained 2 HP. Let's take a look at our mortuary. We'll pull our tank out. He needs to go in. Now this is where we need to open this up a little bit. Let's see if we can build ourselves a Wraith. We have the resources if we can do so. Shouldn't be a problem. Oh, it is a problem. What are we missing? Okay. We're missing some more ectoplasm, it seems, so we're not going to be able to do that right now, and that's pretty unfortunate because it means only our Death Knight is going to get really any substantial heals. I'm going to go ahead and put our Blood Phantasm in. I'm tempted to go like this. If we get a victory, these guys will heal a little bit. It won't be a lot, but it will be something. And that's what matters. Still, I think now I can go ahead and do this. Each minion exploring ancient burial ground finds a random part. So if I staff this, it just means we'll be getting more parts after every victory. And again, the parts are what we use to create our minions. And the thing about parts is parts come in different rarity levels. And they'll make our minion that we create from them more powerful depending on the level of the part used. So right now we only have common parts. But if we start digging up some uncommon and getting some rare or legendary, we could make guys that are truly badass. So I need to create this, and to do that I'm going to have to make a skeleton to sacrifice. When you're making minions to sacrifice, you should always make sure you're on the common tab. You'd hate to sacrifice a minion that had a uncommon or epic part in it.
More bones for the dogs of war.
So let's put him in here. We'll sacrifice him. We'll pay the 20.
The excavation is far too extensive. No, This was not the result of a battle. All these bodies were placed here deliberately.
So we'll staff this with the zombie who we're not really using right now. And if after victory, he will be pulling out an extra part for us, which I think is going to help us a lot. We also have a talent. I'm going to go, there's 4 different trees, okay? And they're all pretty specific to what they are, and they all can lead us into talents that we want. A lot of the talents that we're going to want are going to be ones that permanently improve our minions. Like if we get down to selected bones, our skeletons, all of them are going to gain 20 health. Very useful. So we'll be looking at things like that. I also want gray matter. Gray matter is going to increase the chance of receiving a brain at the end of the battle by 50%. I think that's huge. To get there, we have to take transplantation. This is also huge because this allows us to replace parts in a minion with higher quality parts of the same type. I was talking about those different levels of parts, uncommon, rare, and legendary. Right now this is all locked, but if we take transplantation, if we grabbed an epic part, we could put it on a Death Knight we already have and just make him badass instead of having to build a new Death Knight with said part. So I want that talent anyway, and I definitely want gray matter as early as possible.
Through transformation,
so we're going to grab that.
Becomes free.
And I think there's other areas we're going to explore later. I mean, these are just shortcuts to get to some of the things up here. Alchemy is something that I have not played around with very much. So alchemy might be something that I check out. Alchemy, basically, we can create leveled up parts. So if I wanted to create a green dust, we could fill
Behold my work.
and craft. And then we have green dust. So this is a way of intentionally creating higher level items. So we need to play around with this in this playthrough, I think, a little bit more than I have in the past. So we will be checking everything out in the course of time. Let me know what you guys think of Iratus. It's a game that I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to push through this campaign and ignore any minor updates. We'll just roll with the current updates that we have, even though I'm sure they'll put out bug fixes. But I enjoy it a lot. It reminds me a lot of Darkest Dungeon, obviously, but, you know, we're kind of playing as the bad guys. And it has a lot of its own unique, interesting components as well that we'll see more of as we go on. So yeah, let me know what you think. And as always, I really appreciate the support. Take care, and we'll see you again next time.